Hi everyone, welcome to our YouTube channel Research Ready and Student Matters Hub by Dr. Green. So today we're going to have another lesson video and it is something to do with how are you going to deal with the research involving human participants. So this is a very common research among students, whether you are an undergraduate, a master's or doctoral degree. We are always involving human participants in our research. But before I proceed with my lesson video, please like, and share, and subscribe our YouTube channel, and please share this video also to others so that it can help. No? Lalo na yung mga nagre-research na pure qualitative or may quantitative or a mixed methods research. So I wanted to start my video with an example na kung halimbawa ikaw ay isang researcher at naghahanap ka ng iyong participants or respondents, may isang estudyante na inibitahan kang sumali sa iyong research study. Sinabihan mo siya na simple lang yung kanyang gagawin. Pero, yung student, hindi niya lubos na maintindihan kung para saan yung data na kukunin sa kanya. Alam niyo naman siguro kung bakit maaring hindi ito na-explain. Pumayag siya pero sa kalagitnaan ng proseso, nakaramdam siya ng discomfort at hindi niya alam kung paano siya atras dun sa study. So ang tanong, pwede ba siyang umatras kung siya ay nasa kalagitnaan na ng participation? In today's world of research and innovation, yung mga ganitong sitwasyon ang dapat nating iniiwasan as a researcher. This is a protection to our participants and protection to us as well also as researcher. Kaya sa video na ito, we're going to discuss ano yung mga important points na dapat mong malaman tungkol sa research involving human participants. Mula sa informed consent hanggang sa protection ng kanilang rights at yung kanilang well-being. Dahil yung tamang knowledge or kaalaman, we can assure na ang ating research ay hindi lang makabuluhan kung hindi makatao at ethical din. So, ang una natin dating malaman ay yung tinatawag nating informed consent. So, yung mga researcher natin dito or yung mga bagong researcher, maaring hindi pa kayo aware kung anong ibig sabihin ng informed consent. Pero yung mga nakapag-research na in the past, alam natin yung ating sinasabing informed consent. In other words, if we're going to summarize it, nakalagay, participants must clearly understand the study and agree voluntarily. Ang isang informed consent ay isa sa pinakaimportanteng principle sa research involving human participants. Ang ibig sabihin nito, bago pa man sumali ang isang tao sa study, dapat fully informed siya sa lahat ng aspeto ng research. This includes ano yung purpose ng study, ano yung procedures, ano yung duration, what are the possible risks ng kanyang participation, anong magiging benefits sa kanya ng research kung meron man, and even how their data will be used. Saan nyo gagamitin yung data na kukuha ninyo sa kanya? Hindi enough yung basta na lang pumipirma sila or they will sign their informed consent. Dapat they will understand ano ba yung kanilang pinasok. The information must be presented in a clear, simple, and non-technical language na naiintindihan ng participants ayon sa kanilang level of understanding. Besides this, ang consent ay dapat documented. Usually, meron tayong tinatawag na written consent form. Importante rin na ang consent ay ongoing yung meaning. Kahit na pumayag siya sa simula at pumirma siya, they still have the right to change their mind anytime. Ang pangalawa naman ay yung voluntary participation. From the term itself, mas maiintindihan natin, no one should be forced or pressured to join or continue. Ang ibig sabihin ng voluntary participation ay ang pagsali sa research ay kusang loob at walang anumang uri ng pamimilit. Minsan sinasabi ng researcher, hindi na po kami nagpapirma ng informed consent kasi voluntary naman yung participation even then. Even then, we have to have an informed consent which states that our participants are voluntarily participating in our research endeavor. Participants should feel free to decide whether to join or not to join not without fear or negative consequences. So, hindi na natin sila tinatakot. Kaya nga madalas may question, if I will be the teacher and I will be conducting my study and my students will be my participants or respondents, anong ginawa ni teacher? Para hindi matakot yung mga estudyante niya na hindi mag-participate dun sa kanyang study. In many cases, lalo na sa academic settings, meron tayong tinatawag na power dynamics, yung teacher-student relationship as I have mentioned. Kaya dapat maging extra careful yung researcher natin na hindi ma-pressure yung participants, hindi matakot yung participants natin. Even incentives should be reasonable and not so large that they become coercive. O dadagdagan ko yung grade niya, bibigyan ko kayo ng ganito. So, that might not be a voluntary participation. That is because of the incentives that they have. That's why I'm always telling my students and other researchers that if you're going to give benefits or incentives to your participants, they should be given after the research had been concluded. Tapos na. Huwag natin silang bibigyan ng incentives or benefits para gagawin natin yung benepisyo sa kanila na sumali sila. But that does not actually mean that it is voluntary. Ang tunay na voluntary participation ay makikita kapag yung participant ay may freedom to say no or stop at any point without guilt or pressure. That is what voluntary participation means. Ang susunod is yung confidentiality and privacy, which means personal data must be protected and kept secure. How will we assure that as a researcher? It's usually indicated and reflected in our methodology. Yung sinasabi nating confidentiality and privacy, it refers to the protection of the participants on their personal and sensitive information that will be entrusted to us. Sa research, madalas may kinokolektang data, pangalan, edad, yung experiences, or yung kanilang opinion madalas na sensitive. So, it's the primary responsibility of the researcher na ma-ensure niya that all of this information is not disclosed improperly. And these are also indicated in the informed consent form. So, pag binasa ko siya, nakikita doon paano mo papangalagaan yung data na kukuhanin mo sa akin. Meron tayong mga techniques na pwedeng gamitin, such as anonymization, pwede tayong mag-coding, or use of pseudonyms. Yun yung mga commonly applied. Additionally, data should be stored securely. The password-protected files, dapat naka-reflect yan sa ating research protocols. They are encrypted and then they are locked in cabinets, and you have also to tell who can access all the data that you have to acquire from your participants. Only authorized individuals should have the access to the data. I-respect natin yung privacy, which also means collecting only the data that is necessary and not intruding unnecessarily into the participant's personal life. So that's a big no in conducting a research. Another is we have to minimize harm. We are not saying that we have to eradicate the harm because that's beyond our control. However, as a researcher, paano mo paghahandaan yung mga harm na darating na makakaapekto sa ating participants? You avoid physical, psychological, or social risk to participants. Sometimes at the middle of our study, it happens. But the question is, anong ginawa ni researcher? Itinuloy niya pa rin ba yung kanyang study habang lahat ng ito ay nangyayari? Yung mga psychological risk, yung emotional stress, yung distress na nangyayari sa ating participants. Gusto mo matapos yung research mo pero hindi na comfortable yung participants mo. Will you pursue or not? No, kasi iisa na lang eh. No, it's not. You have to post your research. One of the core ethical responsibilities of a researcher is ma-ensure niya na yung participants niya are not exposed to unnecessary harm. Harm that can be physical, psychological, emotional, or even social. Halimbawa, meron ka isang sensitive na question na pwedeng magdulot ng emotional distress. Kaya bago pa man simulan yung study, dapat yung researcher, alam niya na yung tinatawag nating risk assessment para ma-identify niya yung potential harms at makapag-develop siya ng strategies to minimize them. Lalo na kung ang ating participants ay belong to vulnerable population, such children, single mother, women, yung ating persons deprived of liberty, so they belong to the vulnerable population. If harm cannot be completely avoided, it should be justified. What will be the potential benefits of the study that will keep the lowest possible level? Yung researchers natin should also be prepared to provide support. What if something happens? Merong biglang naiyak, sumakit ang dibdib, nawala ng malay. So, anong gagawin ng researcher natin? So, they have to be prepared. And in such thing that when they have the emotional distress, dapat meron kang mga tinatawag nating referrals for counseling or participants experience distress, meron kang gagawin afterwards. But basically, when you have observed all of this one, you have to pause or stop your study. You have to have ethical approval. So, secure clearance from a research ethics committee. There are, I think, 115 accredited research ethics committee within the Philippines by the Philippine Health Research Ethics Board. And these are subdivided into level 1, 2, and 3. And from the list, most of them, which are level 3, are hospitals. But there are also state universities and colleges and private universities that are already accredited by PREB. However, the institution or your institution can operate its own research ethics committee as long as you will be follow the national and international standards. You have to set up your research ethics committee and you have to be sure that it is approved by the school before it operates. Now, kapag ang mga school ay mahigpit or ibig sabihin natin cautious siya pagdating sa pagkakandak ng research, meron silang tinatayong sarili nilang research ethics committee. They can operate within their school, and accreditation is another aspect. It doesn't mean that you have to be accredited before you can practice research. Ethics committee wherein i-issuehan ka ng clearance, usually before you conduct your study, at the middle of your study on a specific duration, and then after your study have been completed, meaning you have to submit a terminal report. This is an assurance that you have followed all the ethical procedures that must be followed in conducting research involving human participants. Now, I also would like to make clear to my listener or my audience that my topic is all about research ethics involving human participants. It does not include research involving the environment, the ecological society, or animals because it has another research ethics procedures. Now, an ethical approval is a formal process where yung research ethics committee reviews the proposed study to ensure that it complies with ethical standards. Usually, ito ay mandatory bago i-conduct ang study. And the committee evaluates yung research protocols sa tinatawag, particularly yung design, yung consent process, yung risk management, tsaka yung data protection measures na mention ko kanina. Yung ethical approval, ito yung nagsisilbing assurance na yung study mo ay ligtas at may respeto sa karapatan ng participants mo. Without ethical clearance, the research is considered non-compliant and may not be recognized or allowed to proceed. As I have mentioned, there are schools which are really very strict with ethical clearance. So even though they don't have their own research ethics committee, they are directing or instructing their students to go somewhere else to have their research protocols be reviewed by a research ethics committee. Next, right to withdraw. Participants can leave the study anytime without penalty. So you cannot say, Sir, Ma'am, marami na po kayong nasabing data, sayang naman po. Even then, if they are not already comfortable with the process, then they can leave anytime they want. They have the absolute right to withdraw from the study at any time without giving any reason. You don't need to ask them to explain why they will have to withdraw. The right protects their autonomy and freedom. Kahit nasa kalagitnaan na ng interview or data collection, pwede silang tumigil, pwede silang mag-leave. Importante rin na ipaalam sa kanila kung ano yung mangyayari sa kanilang data kung sila ay mag-withdraw, whether it will be used or deleted. But commonly, you cannot use that because they have withdrawn their participation. There should be no penalties, no loss of benefits or negative consequences for choosing to withdraw. Hindi mo po pwedeng balikan ang participants mo. Ini-ensure nito yung participation nila remains ethical and respectful at all times. Data protection. Ang tanong, paano mo papangalagaan yung data na nakuha mo sa kanila? You have to follow proper data handling and storage protocols. Pag sinabi natin data protection, it focuses on how are you going to collect your data, how will you handle them, how will you store, how will you process, and eventually, paano mo siya i-dispose. Ang ating mga researchers, dapat sinusunod niya yung legal and ethical standards. In the Philippines, we have what we call the Data Privacy Act of 2012. Na usually, ito yung ginagamit natin para proteksyonan yung data ng mga tao. Ma-ensure natin yung participant natin, yung information nila are secure. No? Yung nabanggit ko kanina, they are encrypted, they are secure na database, and there are only limited access to authorized personnel. Yung data natin should not be kept longer than necessary. So there is a proper disposal methods. So, hindi natin siya po pwedeng i-dispose at ilagay lang sa basurahan ng ganon. No? In today's digital age, this is especially important to prevent data breaches and misuse of information. Another thing is a special protection. Meron tayong tinatawag na extra care for vulnerable groups. Na-mention ko na to kanina. Yung minors, yung elderly, yung mga single mother, yung mga kababaihan na nakakaranas no, ng pananakit or ng na violate yung kanilang rights. So, they belong to the vulnerable groups. They are considered vulnerable and they require additional protection. So nasabi ko na kanina, kung sino sila, also including person with disabilities and those who have limited capacity to give informed consent. Example, yung minors. Pag sinabing minors, they are below 18 years old, which require parental or guardian consent. And sometimes an assent from the child. Researchers must ensure that these participants fully understand the study and are not being exploited. Extra safeguards, closer monitoring, and stricter ethical review are often required when working with vulnerable populations. Sa research ethics review, usually these undergo a full board review because this really needs an extra care since the participants belong to vulnerable groups. Debriefing. So this is also very important. Once you are done with the data collection, does it mean tapos na yung ating gagawin sa ating participants? We have to provide participants with study results or explanations after participation because this is part of the benefits. Now, if you're going to conduct a study, the first persons who have the right to know the results of your study are the persons who are involved. It is the process of providing participants with a full explanation of the study after their participation. Importante ito kasi if there was any form of deception or if the full purpose of the study was not disclosed initially, so ano nang mangyayari sa participants? Hindi na nila alam kung anong nangyari dun sa study. Now, during the debriefing, they are informed about the actual objectives, the methods, and significance of the research. They're also given the opportunity to ask questions and express concerns. So in some cases, yung results or findings as a form of respect and appreciation, sinishare talaga ito sa ating mga participants. Kasi ang debriefing ensures closure and reinforces the ethical responsibility toward participants. So, tama ba? Yung naging interpretation ni researcher dun sa mga sinasabi ng participants. Okay, so I wanted to end this video by saying that research involving human participants must always uphold respect, safety, and ethical responsibility. By following proper guidelines, we protect both participants and the integrity of research. I hope that you learn how are you going to handle research involving human participants. See you on my next lesson video. Thank you and bye-bye.